great people. It's my prayer that you've been keeping well, that you are keeping well. Personally, I am doing very well. I know my producer here is also doing quite well. And we thank God for another opportunity to be able to come on your screens, whether you're watching from home here in Kenya or abroad, from anywhere you will be tuning in. We are all family here. That's one thing online, online give us a very global family, and I'm happy that you are part of ours here at Living Free Show. I have been your host, Diana Gathoni. I am your host, Diana Gathoni, telling my story as authentically as I can. Like I always say, no one can tell your story the same way that you can. If you told me your story and I retold it, I can never tell it the way you can tell it. So whenever you can, whenever you get an opportunity, tell your story. If it will help someone, if it will bring growth to someone, if it will be of profit in one way or another to someone. And so I pray it's been my hope and prayer that the last episodes that we have done have been of profit to you in one way or another. There are those words that you've resonated with. I remember one time someone was telling me when they were watching, they just got stuck because they felt like I was talking about them, but because somehow life has a way of bringing us together when we go through a similar situation. So I still pray that the stories that I tell here will not just be stories, but they will bring life to you, they bring hope to you, they strengthen you in one way or another, they give you a bit of wisdom here and there, and as I continue with today's show, you will see a lot of foolishness in the mistakes that I have made, the decisions that I have made. Some of them do not repeat. If you have made them like me, we brush ourselves off and we continue, because you can't beat yourself up because of some foolish mistake that you made, a decision that you made that did not turn out right. You can't, you pick yourself up from that and you continue. Life continues. You don't know how long God has given you on earth. You can imagine if you are scheduled to live until you are 80 and you're 40 now. You can't beat yourself up for the next 40 years. So you brush yourself off, pick yourself up and continue. And so today, we continue with our relationships. We started on our last episode, and our last episode was talking more on relationships, and this one as well. But I want to kind of this one is a bit delicate, because it has to do with how my life has been with my family. And yesterday I was with someone. I thought I was raised in a rough childhood. You can watch, I think episode 2 speaks a little more of my growing up, or episode 1 actually. And the person I was speaking with yesterday was telling me of how her and the mother pass each other on the street. Like, it's not mother and daughter. Like, the mother will pass here and she will pass here, and it will be like they have never met. And I was like, hey, I thought mine was tough, but this one, and the girl is so angry. I'm telling you, I was asking the Holy Spirit, Kai, how do I minister to this one? She was so angry. She's like, if my mother passes here, I won't even cross the other side of the road. I will pass there next to her. None of us will talk to the other one. And then she's like, and my mother took my daughter when my daughter was 2 years old, and she has refused to give my daughter back to me. And I was like, hey, people are going through things out here with family. So when I share my story, sometimes I share with the hope and with the prayer that it will bring life to someone and hope, and I hope it does for you today. So I want to kick off with my relationship with my in-laws. It has not been a walk in the park. Also, it has not been so bad as for other people. We've not had a good relationship at all, but I know there are people who have had it worse than me, but I can only tell my side of it. They may be given an opportunity, would tell theirs in a different way, but this is mine, and this is as much as I remember, because I think nobody grows up and gets married and hopes to get married to a place where they will not get along. And I remember if you watched, I think it was, I don't know which episode it was really, but I remember the last episode 4 actually. When you watch episode 4, it speaks a little bit of how my life started off with my in-laws. The one time I came home and they had moved me and my with the permission of my late husband, they had moved us to a different house. And I was so angry because they had moved us to a smaller house. And I was like, who has the guts to come into another woman's house and pack up their things and move them to a smaller house? And sadly, for one of my sister-in-laws, we did not have a very good relationship from the onset of my relationship with Kevin. Even before I was married, she didn't like me much, okay, and I didn't like her much either. But you see, I also have this understanding that when I'm a spiritual being and when I am saved and I understand spiritual matters and someone is of the world, they might not be able to reason with me the same way. But also there was a lot of carnality even on my end. Having grown up the way I had grown up, I still had not dealt with a lot of issues from growing up, with a lot of anger that I felt towards my parents and some of my siblings when I was growing up, or rather some of my relatives when I was growing up, especially with the molestation and with the beatings. I had not dealt with those ones, so I really did not need someone else who brought an attitude to me. And one of my sister-in-laws, she's very, she sits on a very high horse. If you know what that means. If you don't know, yeah, Google it. When someone tells you are sitting on a high horse, yeah, she sits on a very high horse. You can't reach her. Hey, her horse is very high. So we didn't. So when I was getting married, we did not get along that much. Of course, I got married after that. Even within my marriage, it was our relationships was on and off. My mother-in-law, though, is something else. She was very kind. Apart from the beat, you remember where I bundled up all the utensils and took them back? Apart from that incident, we normally didn't have issues after that. I remember she nursed me. We didn't live very far from her. She nursed me when Chevelle was very young. I'm telling you, we ate in her house almost on a daily basis for like 2 years. Like, she would cook literally. And when we didn't go, she would make for me very good mokimoyanjahe, which I still love today. She taught me how to make it. I still make it until today in my house. It's one of my favorite meals. She was a good mother when Kevin was alive. And we got along with her, to say the least. We did. She nurtured me when I was nursing Chevelle, and when Kevin passed away, maybe about a month or so later, she left the country, and I haven't seen her since then. But in between, after Kevin's death, we've had our life has been rough on our relationship, in the sense that we've not gotten along. Because again, I go back to remember when I said you need to know where the opinions of men stop. You need to know how much you can take when men give an opinion, and you need to know how far you let their decisions come. How far you influence your decisions out of what they tell you. And most of my relationship with my in-laws has been very strained, because I am very focused in the way I raise my children. I am very focused in how I do my life. I am very focused in how I run the affairs of my life and destiny. And because we are from two spiritual different backgrounds, they are Anglicans and I'm a Pentecostal. We are very different. So I understand things in a way that they don't, and they also, of course, understand things in the way that I don't. And so most of our relationship has been strained because I've not been able to follow through with some of the decisions they thought I should make. And I remember when Kevin died in 2014, just a few months after, I got a call from them. They are not in the country. They are now all not in the country. Back then, it's just the two of them that were not in the country, and I was supposed to relocate to where they are, and leave my children with my parents. And for me, it felt like my children were being orphaned. going. Leon was not even 1 year old yet. He was probably about 9-10 months then when the opportunity came. And for me, I felt leaving the country to go work, and because of course the goal for this one was to go make money, because now Kevin wasn't there to make money. And if my objective in life has been to make money, I can guarantee you I would have taken so many opportunities I would have gotten up to this minute if my goal in life was to make money. But you see, my goal in life is not to make money, it's to live the life that God called me to live, doing what he called me to do, where he called me to do it, with whom he asks me to do it with. And now, of course, I'm here, so I rejected the opportunity to go to where they are, and I decided to stay and raise my children. Mainly at that point, it was because I did not want to leave my children just after they have lost their father, and now they start growing up without their mother. I could not see myself, someone else raising my children. They may have meant well. My parents may have been in a position to take care of my children, but I was not going to allow someone else to come take my responsibility. Nobody can raise my children the way I can. No one can love them the way that I can. They may mean well. They may even just give their very best. Like literally, I remember at one time my mother-in-law was like, I can come back to the country, raise the children, and then you go work. But I was like, no, if she was literally to come raise my children, I know she would have done a good job. At that time, before we now had friction a lot, we have had a lot of friction along the way, and I knew if she was to do it, then she would have done a good job. But nobody can love my children the way that I can. And I'm not saying this to demean anyone that has chosen to go work and leave their children. No, everyone has their own destiny. And everyone has their own way that they are comfortable doing life. And if that makes you comfortable, or it is a sacrifice that you have willed and have made for the sake of your family, it's okay. For me, I just chose to struggle and not have someone else raise the children, my children for me. And so over time, because I could not agree to what they interpreted my life should look like, we started having friction. We started having friction even with one of my in-laws who was still in the country, because they do not approve of how I lived and how I raised my children. I remember this one time, it was a sad one. The kids had started school, and I remember my in-law went to the school. Somehow she traced. They were helping me with school fees. They would pay a portion of it, and I would pay the rest. And that was it. They were not helping me take care of my bills. No, by the way, no, it was just me. They helped me take care of my bills for the first 1 year, and then it kind of took ipungua even until it stopped completely. And even then, it was just a portion of it. You see, when I have a bill of 40,000 or 30,000 and you give me 5,000, it will help. But yeah, so anyway, that was not the exact amount. That was just an example. So one time, in the process of us having friction, that they wanted me to take children to a different school, it ended up being that now I could no longer be in communication with them. And it was sad for me, because I know how much my mother-in-law loves my children. She really loves my children, especially because Kevin was the only son. I know she really loves Chevelle and Leon. She really does. But there was this other influence that was not right, and for me it was not sitting well with me, because the moment you tell me to do something and it does not sit well with me and I don't do it, you should not be angry. But they would get angry a lot when I didn't do it the way they wanted me to do it. When they sent me money and they felt, you see, when you send me, let me say, you send me 20,000 shillings and tell me to pay school fees. I don't have rent, I don't have food. As a wise person, I will try to balance. I will pay part of it fee, I'll pay part of it school fees, and I will try to make sure there is food. Because what is the point of paying school fees when there is no food on my table and where there is no roof on my head? What is the point? So we started having friction in that regard, that if this is what they allocated the funds for and I did not do exactly as they said, exactly to the T, it did not sit well with them. And one time I remember one of my in-laws started calling me started saying I am an irresponsible mother. So when my kids were just in their very lower grades, maybe Leon was in very, very lower grades, not even in grade 1 yet, or at most grade 1. Yeah, I think he was in grade 1 and Chevelle was in grade 3 or 2 thereabout, but in lower grades. One of my in-laws somehow traced the school they were going to. They had not known where my kids were going to school. They knew the name because they would send the money to the school. So she traced where the kids went. I remember being called and I was told so and so is here, and they have said they are the ones who will be taking the children home. And I said, so and so is there, with whose permission? And which home is she taking them to? Because she does not know where we live. And neither do the children. They are very small. They cannot direct her to where we live. We used to live a bit on the inside. They cannot. So how did she get there? So she didn't even. So they were like, she didn't call you? No, I am not aware. I am not aware. So I insisted on the school. I told them, make sure the children get on the bus and come home. And I remember that is where now the rubber met the road. Because I was called shortly after. And I was, words were spoken, Words were spoken. And I knew from that moment that if they were to get an opportunity to take my children for me, they probably would. And now you can imagine, I'm a single mom and I'm having to do, I think that is where we didn't speak for a few years after that conversation, because this did not go well. I wrote to them back in the country where they are, and I stated my case, and I said I no longer, because I remember that in-law that had gone to try take my children that time. Afterwards, she went and sent one of their cousins who we still keep in touch, and she told them that that if we were not sending clothes to Diana, her and her children would be walking naked. And I was so angry. I was like, if you have not been sending those clothes, we would be walking naked. From today, don't send them. I wrote them a message. I told them, from today, don't send them. Let's see how naked we walk. And for a couple of years, we didn't keep in touch. So I don't have good stories to tell about my in-laws. The only good stories that exist are probably the ones that were there when Kevin was alive. I'm telling you, it's a beautiful thing to have a husband. It's a beautiful thing. There is, I think there's a respect that comes when a man is around, because not only just alive, not just having. How do I put it? For them not being dead. Yeah, I have come to see the advantage of having a spouse. Let me put it that way. I have come to see the advantage as a woman, the advantage of having a spouse, because there's a certain respect that comes out of it. Because even then, when we never used to get along, as long as Kevin was alive, there are things they would never do. There are things that would have never happened when he was alive, and over time, I have tried maybe to mend the relationship. I really don't want to speak much on it, but I have tried to mend it. But it has come to a point now in this time that there are relationships I have learned you cannot mend. I remember, this one I can give. Maybe it will help someone. I remember some years back. How many years now? Let me see. Holy Spirit help. How many? About 4 years. Yes, about 4 years ago. This one I will say. Let me say it. Let me just say it. About 4 years ago, I went to them. Now I don't mean my mother-in-law and the rest. No, I mean my in-laws generally as the family of late Kevin. I went and I told them I intend to get married again. Hey. Let me tell you this one so you can laugh, be angry, be sad, stand. Now, See, of course, it is God. I will get married, by the way. I will not broadcast it. Mine will be very small, or not small, but it will not be online. But when it happens, believe you me, you will know. But so I went and I told them I wanted to get married. Eish, drama. See, this is, please allow me to count. This is 6 years after Kevin had died. It is 6 years after he had died. So I went and I told them I wanted to get married. Now, at first, my mother-in-law was happy. And I know she will probably watch this. I hope she doesn't get angry. I remember that time, there was a time she was like, Diana, you need to get married to a white guy. Because, and I remember her fear was I will get married to someone, an African man who will not allow her to see her grandchildren. And for me, honestly, even now that we are not in talking terms, like literally we are not in talking terms, she calls, but when she calls it's to talk to the children. I have told myself I will not deny her the, what is the word? The connection to her grandchildren. They are still the children of her son. And I have told myself I will not deny her that privilege of having a connection with them. And even when I am to get married, I will still not deny her that connection. They know I have made it over time. You can imagine they have hurt me over time where I have hated them. You know, like hate. Like literally hate, kept distance, completely kept distance, because I felt they did not have best interest in heart concerning me. And if you do not have best interests concerning me, you can't tell me you have good interests concerning my children. So I have kept off completely. See Lazima, by the way, I'm like, we don't have to be in touch here. You can live your life, I live mine and my children. But at the end of the day now, when I am wiser, because then I was angry. When you are angry, I kept them off out of anger. And I kept them off out of how they were mistreating me and how I felt. Just because you gave me an opinion and I refused to take it, you don't have to come rubbing it on me like, yeah, you did not do this. And you know, I decided to, this is me, this is my children, I will raise them. And even now, I have decided, no matter what, I will not deny her the privilege of having them. So even then, when I was angry, I still spoke very well of her and her daughters to my children. Like if you sit down now and ask my children anything negative about my in-laws, they will have nothing to tell you, because I have made it a point not to say anything negative to them concerning my in-laws. They are still their family and they know that. And even now, when she calls and me and her don't have a conversation, she knows she can have a conversation with the children. So anyway, going back to 6 years after Kevin died, I went and told them I wanted to get married. And she was elated. For her, she was elated. She was like, okay, I'm happy for you, and I'm happy that you're deciding to get married. And of course, the conversation was, is he a white person? No, he's not me. No, he's not white. And you know, then after that, I was told by them that I need to go to my other in-laws, the aunties and the uncles, and inform them of my decision. And so I did. When we started the process, that process took us 1 month. 1 month. I would go to this auntie and tell them I intend to get married, and I just wanted to let you know that so you don't hear Diana went and got married. One auntie was happy. I went to another uncle. The uncle was like, okay. I went to another auntie, and the other auntie cried. They cried. You are stealing our children. They told me, you are stealing our children. Where are you taking our children? To another man's house. You are stealing our children. And I was like, And especially this particular auntie had not seen, the last time she saw my children was the day Kevin was buried. The burial day, which was 10th of March 2014. That was the last time she saw my children. Leon was 2 months old. Chevelle was 2 years old. That was the last time. And then I go to her a few years later, 6 years to be precise, and she's like, you're stealing our children. You don't know where we live. You don't know how we have been living. You don't know what they eat. You don't know how they go to school, whether they have been going to school. Not even once have you ever said, let me go and visit these ones. But now they have become your children because I want to get married. It became such a drama. You know drama, it became drama. One issue, back forth, meetings, back forth. You have been called, you have been summoned. I was being summoned, they would sit me down. You cannot, you want to get married, go get married, leave our children. I was like, leave your children. They have now become your children. It was drama eventually. So I fast forward. We did those meetings for 4 weeks. That is 1 month. The last meeting that we had, it was decided that we need the elderly men that came during our dowry, they need to be brought. So I had to go to my mother and tell her, look for all the men that you had called to go take my dowry. Or was it receive, the men who received dowry. You need to find them, all of them. And then the in-laws decided to find all the elderly men and women that had come to bring dowry to our house. And we were called together to meet, and they had to explain on what grounds I was getting married and why I was taking their children to another man's house. It was an argument. You see the way you bring culture and Bible together. They were told, the Bible says, until death do us part. And they were told that one has been fulfilled. It is written, when a widow loses a husband and they are young, they are free to get married. It was read. But a lot of things were brought together. We had to justify on what grounds I was getting married again. But I think what pained me most was them thinking they had a right over my children when they had no idea at all, or whether these children have ever slept hungry, whether these children have ever, I can't tell you how many times they have been sent out of school for school fees. None of them had any idea how these children were being raised. You saw them last when they were 2 years old and 2 months old. But now, because you've heard there's another man in the picture, they have become your children. Imagine them telling me, bring the children, you go. And I was like, hey, you people are crazy. I remember that time I sat in that meeting after when I noticed the back and forth with the elders is not bearing any fruit. I was eventually asked, Diana, do you have something to say? Me, I was waiting. Hey, you see the way you cook? I was cooking myself. As they were talking, I was cooking, and I was waiting for my turn to speak. And I stood up and I told them the same things I'm telling you now. You people have not seen these children ever since they were babies. And when I mean babies, I mean toddlers. You have not seen them. You don't know what they eat. You don't know what they drink. You don't know what how we live. You don't even, if someone asked you right now where I live, you don't know where I live. And now you're saying it's your children. And I stood up and I stamped my foot and I told them, with all respect, I did not come to ask for your permission to get married. I came to inform you that I am getting married. These children will go to that man's house and they will be the children of that man. And he will love them and they will be his children. And these children are not coming. I'm not bringing the children back to you. You do not know how they are growing up. You have seen them today because that day I carried the children. You have seen these children today and you didn't even recognize it was them. And now you are claiming they are your children. I told them I did not come to ask for permission. I came to let you know I am getting married. That is how it ended. That is how that meeting ended. And of course, I was told to go outside. I was told to go outside. They continued the conversation in my absence. A few minutes later, maybe about 10 or 20, I was called back. The auntie that was crying was still crying. And she looked at me and she told me, we have released you with the blessing of God. You can go and get married. Just please make sure the children visit once in a while. And I was like, they will visit once in a while. And I've tried to keep up to that. I'm not married yet, but I've tried. But but that relationship is not as solid as I would want it to be. It is It's a sad state, but with time I have also become wiser to know how to handle my relationships with my in-laws in the future. Because at the end of the day, again, I go back to saying you need to know where their opinions stop. And because you do not have a man in your life to defend you, if you're a widow like me, it doesn't mean that you have whatever they say goes. You need to know what works for you, what works for your family. I know what works for me, what works for my children. I know one of the things I will not compromise on. I will not allow someone else to raise my children. No matter how much they will love them, I will not allow it. So for me, it may not have been a blissful walk. It is not a blissful walk with my in-laws, but it is not as bad as other people's stories. For that, I thank God for. And for sure, I hope maybe as we progress in life, things will get easier for us, because we are also getting old. I honestly don't have time to have, this back and forth. These children, they know where they belong. They know where their father's home is, and that will never change. They will still remain their children. So that was the bit of my in-laws up to this point. It may not have been blissful, but that is just a bit of my story. We are taking a short break. When we come back, we'll find out more on what happens now on my direct family. We'll see you shortly.
Welcome to Hemak Suites, which is a breathtaking address in the Nairobi Central Business District. Hemak Suites make a convenient and relaxing base for conducting business, attending meetings, or discovering the city's culture and heritage from the heart of Nairobi's CBD. At Hemak Suites, you will not only have a front row experience to savour our unique luxury in the refreshing ambience and comfort of our hotel rooms, but will also have the incredible thrill that comes from sampling our unique blend of both indigenous and exotic cuisine, which is immaculately catered for you in our rooftop restaurant. Our rooms come in different varieties, including deluxe, executive, standard, and twin bedrooms. For food enthusiasts, we got your back as well. Hemak Steakhouse, which is located on the 8th floor of Hemak Suites, is just what the doctor ordered. On this rooftop restaurant, you can enjoy a unique dining experience with stunning views of the Westlands area and the city at large. Start your day with a mesmerising sunrise breakfast or savour a romantic sunset dinner in our prime location. Indulge in our exquisite selection of steaks prepared by talented chefs, accompanied by mouth-watering side dishes. Experience impeccable service and an extraordinary dining atmosphere at Hemak Steakhouse. You may also want to have a refreshing and quality time in our conference facilities, which offer not only the ambience required for a gratifying corporate meeting experience, but also the amenities you may need for the success of such an engagement. To book a room at Hemak Suites, and for any other inquiry about our services, please call us on +2 54 748 618 009. You can also email us on reservations@hemaksuites.com. For in-person inquiries and bookings, you can visit us at Hemak Plaza, 4th floor, Kikarok Road, Nairobi Central Business District. We would also be delighted if you could visit our website for further information on our services. You can do so by visiting hemaksuites.com.
Welcome back. I needed a breather. Yeah, from that all talk of my in-laws and all of that, I needed a breather. But coming back onto it, and I would like to focus maybe more now on talking of my own siblings. Like I mentioned on my very first episode, I am a second born in a family of 6 with a mom and a dad still alive. I bless God. But where, when if you're a church person like me, or not even leave alone church, if you have been around long enough, and long enough I mean in your 20s, you're in your 20s, 30s, if you've been around long enough, you have heard this truth of the one that is an outcast in the family is the Josephs. Let me use the biblical term, the Josephs of families. And when you read the story of Joseph, when I think of myself, I have lived the life of Job. I have lived the life of Joseph. Like me and Joseph right now, if we can meet, as we will have rapport, we will have a conversation, we will have stories to tell each other. If me and Job sit on a table like this, we can discuss 1 or 2, 3 things. If me and David sit down like this, we can talk. We have stories. Me and David, we can have stories to talk. I look forward to going to heaven when it is time. Because some of these people, they need to tell me how they did it. It is not enough reading it in the Bible. They need to tell me how they did it, because where I have sat down, I think I have lived the lives of some of these biblical people. Talk about Ruth. Me and Ruth, we are sisters. Yeah, we are sisters. Maybe yangu ni Boaz part haijafika, but I have something to tell. And you know, Joseph is basically what would really describe my story when it comes to me and my family. I love my family. I love that is where God chose me to grow up. Now I can say that initially I would have given God my life to take it back and bring me back and birth me in a different household, because growing up, like I said, was very tough. But now and I don't want to repeat that bit, go watch my first episode and you will see how I grew up. But now when my life was transitioning from the death of Kevin and I was trying to figure out my life, you would expect that the place that you would lean on most would be on your family. And I remember at that time, as a family, we were going through a very rough time. We were financially and relationally, we were going through a very rough time. It was very straining. And I remember a few of us then were working. We are 6. Who was working? One person was working. And at some point, none of us was working. So trying to transition and heal at the same time without having your direct family to lean on was very tough, because you need to understand that some of our parents have not, they do not know how to deal with children that are grieving. Like I know my mom did not know how to deal with me as I was grieving until today. By the way, until today, 11 years down the line, me and my parents have never had a conversation of how I dealt with the death of Kevin. Not once. Since the burial date, I remember we went for a long time without having the name Kevin mentioned in my household. We never sat down to talk about Kevin in my house. After the burial, we never sat down to talk about Kevin in my house. And I think now it is probably because my family did not know how to handle a widow. Yeah, and maybe even they were in this, my parents were probably in disbelief that they actually had a widow in the house. My mom still has her husband till today. And I think they did not digest the fact that there was now a young widow in the house. And I think even when they looked at me, they didn't know what to say. That until today, we have never had the conversation of someone asking me, Diana, how are you dealing with the loss of Kevin? Not once. I was never asked that question. Not once. And I think that took a toll on me a bit, knowing that I do not have someone in my family that I can talk to. After, I remember a few months after I moved back into my house after being hosted by my pastors then, one of my brothers came to live with me. I actually requested him to come and live with me. And for me, he is the one person that we are very close in my family. When I say close, we are very close. And not close in terms of favorites, but close in the sense that we check up on each other. We check up on each other a lot. And he's been, you see, when we are taught about relationships and we are taught about burden bearers, he has been such a burden bearer ever since Kevin died, that there are bits I have not felt the weight of the needs that were present, because he always made sure that he came through to meet some of those needs. Always made sure he came to meet those needs, especially when it comes to matters of sometimes paying rent, sometimes paying school fees, whatever felt like a weight at one point. He always tried his best to ease that burden, maybe not take it away completely, but he always tried to ease that burden from when Kevin went home to be with the Lord. But the fact that I could not sit with my parents and discuss of my grieving period, sometimes I would sit and I would wonder, is it that they don't care? Or is it that from the moment we buried Kevin, their life moved on? Especially not just my parents, but even my siblings. And we have never sat down as a family and had the conversation of how either of us dealt with the grief, with the death of Kevin. Not once. You see, like, I would expect, or it would be expected of families to sit together and have discussions when someone dies. And I think in the African context, this is something that we have most of in our upbringing has failed us, that families don't know how to sit together and have conversations over issues that have to do with pain, over issues that have to do with grief, over issues that have to do with loss. Families don't know how to come and sit together, the ones that have been left behind, to sit down and take and find out how each one of them is doing in regards to that loss. And for me, I did not have that privilege, and it left me to deal with grief by myself and to figure it out by myself. Initially, it would bother me. It would bother me that no one in my own household seemed to care enough to come and find out how are you doing. Genuinely, because when a family member comes and asks me, how are you doing? I will probably answer genuinely. But I did not get those conversations going at that time. And for me, in the initial years, it was sad. But now when I analyze it, I see it was from the place of them not knowing how to deal with me as a widow, and for them to help me walk through the journey of grief and of pain. And because they did not know how to do it, they did not find out how it can be done. And so I had to walk the journey of grief and of pain by myself, without my family. And by myself, I mean in regards to my family, I had my pastors who walked with me. But besides them, my immediate family, I did not have them walking with me. And honestly speaking, I wish I did. Maybe it would have been easier, but they did not. And so I had to figure out how to walk the journey by myself. And by the grace of God, of course, I did with the help of the Holy Spirit. And now, over the years, life has been tough. Life has been tough, especially when it comes to finances and trying to raise children and give them a good life. And I see people saying, you're not the only one who's had a tough time. Even married people have a hard time. It's true, but try having a hard time when you are just by yourself. You see, the beauty of having a tough time when you are married people, you can sit down and talk. Just talk. Not even come up with solutions. Just talk. But now when you're doing it singly as a person, as me, and as a widow, and remember when I shared with you that I now didn't have friends because I had become this plague that people are avoiding, because I'm this single widow, beautiful girl that cannot, so I didn't have people to reach out to even seek counsel from, apart from my pastors. And even them, the counsel they give me is the Bible says. And honestly, sometimes I didn't want to hear the Bible says. Yeah, to be very honest, I didn't want to hear the Bible says. I just wanted real conversations like the one you would have with your husband. So don't say, even married people have trouble. They have trouble, but they have each other. They have trouble, but they can talk. They have trouble, but they can sit together and laugh. Me, I would have that conversation with myself. And it felt bad for me that I could not sit down with my family and sit and tell them this is how it is, just not even to receive any form of help, none whatsoever, to just sit down and have a conversation. And for me, what has happened over the years, it's that I have withdrawn. I have one of my brothers, now my good brother, not all of them are good brothers, I have 3. This one that we normally have conversations with called me the other day and told me, hey, you've become too quiet. Even on the family group, you don't talk much. But you see, with time, I have learned the joy of silence. Remember I mentioned the story of Joseph. I have always been this person that is not like everybody else in my family. And I can say this because I have told them. I have always been this person that is different, like literally different. In character, in speech, I have always been this person that is completely different. I see things differently. I act differently. I am a woman of faith. I just move sometimes by faith. Sometimes it's a disaster because even faith requires wisdom, and sometimes I have applied faith but did not apply wisdom, and I found myself in trouble, but I have always been this different person in my family that at one time I thought, remember in my first episode when I told my mother that I am an outcast because of how I used to be treated. Even now that I am grown, I am still this person that is very different from my family, and I have come to accept that is the way it is. Sometimes I sit and I feel how Joseph was feeling when he would not even have a conversation with his siblings because of the kind of dreams that he was having, the life that he was having, because of the way they perceived him. He could not have a genuine conversation with them. And I have found myself in those spots where I cannot have a genuine conversation with my family because of what I believe, because of how I speak, because of how I view things, because of how God has called me. I am completely different. And I have learned with time to be very okay with it. In pain, I have learned that even within my own household, there are people I cannot call. Let me give you a story. One time I was going through a tough time financially. I have had those ones on and off. The day we are talking about finances, I will tell you stories. I will tell you stories. So this one time remember I told you it took me 6 years before I got a job, the first job I got after 6 years. And within those 6 years, I remember one time I went to one of my sisters and I was passionate about soul winning. I was very passionate. I still am, but I think I don't carry it with the weight that I had back then. So this one time I went to my sister and I tried to win her for God. She was living a promiscuous life and I didn't like it. So I decided, let me try to speak salvation to this one. Hey, my sister looked at me, laughed. You know the one of mocking? She mocked me with laughter and she told me, I get saved and become poor like you. I cannot get saved. Yeah, you keep your God. And I was like, guy, okay. I was so shocked. I did not believe. I did not believe that came from her mouth. And she repeated, me, I become poor like you. Look at you. You even have rashes on your face. I mean, and it's true, I had rashes on my face. Because of stress, I was depressed. Well, I'm telling you, I was so depressed. I was literally depressed, honestly. And she looked at me. She was like, I become poor like you. Get saved. No. I will never, until today, she's not saved, by the way. Ati, I will never get saved. If salvation means this kind of poverty, keep your God. Keep your God. And so some of you maybe, you have been mocked in your families because of, sticking with God. And I want to say what a joy it is sometimes to stick with God. Because over time, I've seen fruit of me sticking with God. I have, even now when I'm speaking, maybe she's looking at me and thinking, I'm still richer than you. Okay, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. May the Lord keep blessing you. But your family can be a place where you are greatly wounded. It can be a place that greatly wounds you. I'm telling you, I have been wounded in my household. One time, let me give you another story. One time in that before one of my in-laws, one of my sister-in-laws, they decided to come camp in my house with this sister of mine that called me poor. And because I did not like the way they drink, and I did not like the way the lifestyle they were living in my house, and I had not invited them to come stay, they were bringing clothes one by one. So one day I got so angry, I packed up their clothes. I have a habit of packing people's things. I packed up their clothes, took them to my mother's house, and because I knew they were going to visit there, I told them, we meet at my mother's house. And so they went, and so they came and found me there. When they came, I took a taxi there, so I got there before them because they were using a matatu, and I was going with the children, so I took a taxi. When I went there, they came and found me and the children, and I told them, you're not going back to my house. I have brought all of your things. They are here. Hey, I was beaten. This sister of mine that called me poor found me in the kitchen, asked when she's blessed, she's huge. And this time I am depressed, I am stressed, I have slimmed, I am tiny. And don't forget I have rashes on my face. So my sister found me in the kitchen and asked me, Atinini, you have done what? Who gave you permission to touch our things? And they were with my other sister-in-law. Who gave you permission to touch our things? And my mother was there. And I'm telling you, my sister beat me, and she's way younger than me. I'm maybe about 5 years older than her. In between me and her, we have 2 brothers. She beat me up, and she beat me up, and my other sister-in-law joined in. I was being beaten by my sister-in-law and by my and my children were sitting in the sitting room. They were seeing me being beaten. So they beat me. They beat me for taking their clothes back to my mother's house and for refusing for them to stay in my house. They were beating me because I have refused they stay in my house. Oh God. And I remember that day, my sister-in-law stood on one side after they were done beating me, my other sister on one side and my mother at the center, and she said no word. She did not lift a finger, to tell them to stop. She did not lift a finger. So they beat me up, and I was insulted. I was words I can't say. And so what I did, I took a motorbike with my children, and we came back to my house. I did not go back to that house for months. I did not speak with my mother for months, and I did not speak with either of the 3 of them for very many months, for a very long time. And so I know the family can be a place where you are misunderstood. It can be a place because over time now, remember I already rejected an opportunity to travel abroad, and I have rejected quite several because I sought the Lord and the Lord told me don't take them. And so when I am here struggling financially and having a tough time financially, and I have been given an opportunity that could liberate me financially, and of course, being it abroad, even children get a better opportunity education-wise. But you see, I am not God. I cannot decide they will get a better opportunity education-wise, and I take them there, yet God wants them groomed here. God has a place for all of us that need to be groomed, And so I didn't, and it didn't sit well with some of my siblings, the fact that I said no to most of those opportunities. And so I have been insulted over time. I remember another instant. We had gone to visit my parents, and when I was being given a ride by one of my brothers in their car. So one of them opened the driver's door, and they did not see my son there. My son was still a little, maybe he was about 5 years old then, and the door hit him very badly. And I was like, you've hit him. And I remember, you see, when opportunities bring out the anger in someone, and I remember he looked at me and he's way younger than me, and he looked at me, and my parents were standing there, and he looked at me and he started calling me, you foolish woman, you are a stupid woman. He really insulted me in front of my kids, And because I didn't have means, and it is at night, I still have to get into his car for him to drive me home. He insulted me, and so And my parents did not say anything because this is the one that has money and supports them. And it's a bad thing that our culture, some of us have grown up into families that esteem the people that have money over the ones that do not seemingly have as much money as the others, or have no money at all. And so the ones who have a say. And even you, when you get money, you have a say until money depletes, and then you no longer have a say. And I know how bad it can be when you grow up in a family that is continually wounding you. Because if you go back to my first episode, this started when I was way younger. And even now, I am now the age I am. I am old. I am not young. I'm not like a toddler. I'm not a teenager. I'm not a youth. I am way beyond 35, you know. And those are things that are still happening to me. And if you do not decide in yourself that the environment you grew up in, because I have come to learn all this time, some of these my siblings, they are still behaving the same way. They are still malicious. They are still angry people with me. They are still behaving in a certain manner. They are okay being the way they are. If when you come to the understanding that you cannot change your family members, you are direct, I'm talking about direct family members, leave these external ones, unless the external ones are the ones that you have close. Yeah, if you get to this place and you understand that they cannot change, you still have to take them as they are. Like I said, have them within your vicinity, but guard your heart. And for me, I have learned to do that they are my family. I love them as my family. And I know for me, my family has been my training ground. My family has been the place where my morals have been built. It has been the place where I have learned to guard my heart. It has been the place where I have been wounded greatly, yet I have had to find healing amidst the people who are comfortable. Some of them are comfortable bringing pain, because that is who they are. They are people of the world. That's the way of the world. And they don't feel it. They are not, they are not sorry about it. They are okay with it. And some of you go for meetings and you are like, people are continually causing you harm, whether you have money, whether you have resources, whether you don't. Like for me, by the way, it makes no difference. Whether I have money, whether I don't have money, whether I am doing very well, whether I am not doing very well, my seasons are always the same. There will always be those ones that will choose to to still treat me in a manner that is not pleasing. And so maybe I have learned to be able to be comfortable with who they are without allowing them into my internal space. Because the moment you learn how to guard your internal space, you know how far they can hurt you. You are the one who allows how far they can hurt you. I'm telling you, I can give you stories, the many times they have said things, the many times I have not been able to go home because I was not allowed to go there. I remember I was having a tough time some time back, and I got auctioned. So of course, getting auctioned means you go back home. So I went back home and I was staying there with some of my siblings that had gone to stay home as well. But then their staying home was out of choice. They had money, but they just wanted to stay home. And so remember, I have just been auctioned. I've lost everything and gone there because I felt that is where not for safety per se, but just to have a roof over my head. And I remember at one time, one of my nephews came to me and told me, you have been told that you are no longer welcome here, you need to leave. And for me, because of the way I was being treated, I knew that was true. I had received the treatment that was not very good. But you see, at the end of the day, I don't hold it against them. Now I'm speaking from a mature place, not from a wounded heart. My heart is healed. Nowadays, you really have to go through a lot of how do I put it? A lot of walls and a lot of guard that I've put on my heart before you bring me to a place where you can wound my heart. You will really take. I'm telling you, I think I have been through quite a lot to not just allow anyone to come and wound my heart or my soul. And so, at this one time now, speaking from a place of wisdom and understanding, I have now come to understand that my family has just been a tool that God has used to mold me and to make me. And some of you, maybe you need to understand that where God brought you from, where you have grown up from, the way they have treated you. I read a post yesterday, and they were speaking of how ill their mother used to send them to, when they closed school, as early as when they were in class 5, their mother would send them to some of her wealthy siblings to work as maids during the school holidays, so that she would get the payment. And she would drop the child there and then come pick the child and come beat the child up, telling the child, "You overstayed your welcome where I took you." And they have been taken to work as maids during the school holiday so that the mother can be paid. So we may all have stories to tell, but at the end of the day, what blessed me about this story was that what I went through is what made me. And some of us need to understand, where we have grown up is what makes us. It can make you a very bitter person. It can make you a very angry person. It can make you a very compassionate person. It can make you a very loving person. And for me, I have chosen the latter. It has made me a very compassionate person and a very loving person to people, and a more understanding person to when people say they are going through tough times within their households. It is possible. And sometimes you cannot be able to run away from those households, because some of you are minors, like you are in college, or you don't even have a means. Like, you remember, like for me, when I was auctioned and I had to go back home, and I have had to go home in all these 11 years. I have been auctioned twice. Yes, I have been auctioned twice, and I have had to go home 3 times. The other time I went home with all of my things. I couldn't keep up with bills. I just packed my things and went back home. But remember, I am going back to a house that most of the times I don't feel welcome. In most of the times I don't feel I fit in. In most of the times I am indifferent from everybody else. And you have to learn the beauty of being indifferent. It means that even how God will handle you is different with how he handles everybody else. But you have to learn to get to this place where you learn to guard your heart, even you and your, like being a sheep among wolves. And I'm not saying my family are wolves. No, I'm just using an analogy. They are still good people in their own rights. But now you have to learn to guard your heart when you are around people that you cannot move. You cannot shift yourself and say, I cannot shift myself and say, today I'm no longer the Kamaus, I have moved to the Njoroges. That is now my household. I am no longer the Kamaus. Even the Njoroges, you'll be amazed to find they have their own trouble. They just cover it. My mother keeps telling us every time that of course, now with time, she has also changed. The more you grow old, the more they keep changing. And I remember sometimes she will sit us and tell us we have to learn to cover each other's nakedness as a household. And for some of you, maybe your families may not even be in that position. Some of you have not talked to your families for so long, to your parents for so long, to your siblings for so long, because you're still carrying the hatred of what they did. Your peace and your joy is your responsibility. It is your responsibility. And because I know I may not get another opportunity to talk on this whole relationship business, you need to learn that you are your own responsibility. You are having your peace is your responsibility. You are overcoming grief is your responsibility. You are overcoming how people have treated you. It is your responsibility. Everything that has to do with you, you are your own responsibility first. Before you start blaming it on so and so, on my family, and on this and on this. Yes, they did, and they are still doing. And some of them will still do it until you are dead. They will still, because that is who they have chosen to be. But you see, if they have chosen to be who they are, malicious people, angry people, bitter people, people who will keep causing you harm, if that is who they have chosen to be, and they are grown-ups, you have to also decide the kind of person you want to be. You also have to decide the kind of relationships you want to have. You may not be able to change them, but you can decide, this is the person that I am going to be, irrespective of how I have been treated by people, irrespective of the circumstances, irrespective of how they have mishandled me. I have decided to be this version of me that I like. I am first comfortable in my skin before I am comfortable around everybody else. And I can be around everybody else that mishandles me, whether in my family or otherwise. I can be around them, but I am not with them. I can be around them, but me, when I go back, I retrieve myself into the inside of myself. I get into this peaceful place that I am comfortable with, and that is me. So irrespective of what has happened, I am comfortable in my skin. I am comfortable with who I have become because of where I have grown up in, and because of how things have happened over time with my relationships, whether with my in-laws or with my families, because I have come to understand, again, I am responsible for me. So with that, I hope you have been blessed. Our I would have called it series, but our episodes on relationships will seize them from there, and for the next one we'll pick up something else. And I pray that you have been blessed, you have been edified, you have been helped, you have been healed, and some of you will pick up one thing or two things that you can be able to use practically in your lives, so that you can be able either to edify the relationships around you, to avoid those that you can avoid, but most of all, build yourself from the inside. Find that peaceful place from yourself and sit there and sit comfortably. May the Lord bless you and do you well. We see you again on the next episode. Have a good time.